Right now, there are people who remember your lowest season, the season when you were hurting quietly, the season when you felt broken, the season when life seemed to be falling apart around you. They saw your struggles, they saw your setbacks, they saw your tears, and some of them assumed that was the end of your story. They assumed you would never recover, never heal, never rise again, never become stronger than the pain you experienced. But listen carefully, Jesus is saying, "My child, they witnessed your struggle, but they did not witness everything I was doing behind the scenes. Because while others focused on your difficulties, I was building your strength. While others noticed your setbacks, I was preparing your comeback. While others assumed you were finished, I was preparing a new chapter." Jesus says, "My child, your current season does not define your final outcome. The pain you experienced was real, the heartbreak was real, the disappointment was real, the loneliness was real, but none of those things were permanent, because difficult seasons are chapters, not conclusions." Jesus is saying, "My child, what tried to break you is about to reveal how strong you truly became. For a long time, you doubted yourself, questioned your future, wondered if things would ever improve, and there were moments when you felt like giving up completely. Moments when continuing forward felt impossible, yet somehow, you kept going, one day at a time, one prayer at a time, one step at a time, and that quiet perseverance matters more than you realize." Jesus says, "My child, every step you took while hurting built strength you could not yet see. Because healing was happening, even when it felt slow, growth was happening, even when it felt invisible, transformation was happening, even when nobody else noticed, and now, the results are beginning to appear. Your confidence is returning. Your peace is returning, your faith is becoming stronger, your perspective is becoming clearer." Jesus is saying, "My child, the same person who once cried over the situation is becoming stronger because of it. That is why you must not return to old mindsets, do not return to old fears, do not return to old attachments, do not return to places that nearly destroyed your peace, because you are not who you were before. You have grown, you have healed, you have learned." Jesus says, "My child, your recovery is becoming your testimony. Soon, people will notice the difference, not because you became perfect, not because life suddenly became easy, but because your spirit became stronger. Your character became deeper, your faith became more mature, and your peace became more valuable than chaos." Jesus is saying, "My child, those who only saw your struggle will be surprised by your transformation. So keep moving forward, keep trusting, keep healing, keep believing, because your story is not ending in defeat. The chapter ahead will look different from the chapter behind, and what God is building now will be greater than what you lost." Jesus says, "My child, they thought you would never recover. But I am showing them what healing can do. If you believe God is restoring your life and strengthening your spirit, type Amen and continue walking forward in faith." Now, something feels different, not because every problem has disappeared, not because life suddenly became perfect, but because you are no longer the same person who entered the storm. Jesus is saying, "My child, restoration begins inside you before it appears around you. One of the first signs is this: the things that once controlled your emotions no longer have the same power, the words that once hurt you deeply no longer break your spirit, the situations that once kept you awake at night no longer consume your thoughts the same way, because healing has been taking place quietly." Jesus says, "My child, what used to weaken you is now teaching you strength." Another sign: you begin trusting yourself again, after disappointment, after heartbreak, after seasons of self-doubt, your confidence slowly returns, you start making decisions with greater peace, you stop second-guessing every step, you stop needing constant approval from others, because your identity is becoming stronger. Jesus is saying, "My child, Restoration includes rebuilding your confidence. Another sign, you stop chasing what keeps running from you. People who once occupied your thoughts constantly no longer control your emotions. Old attachments begin losing their grip, and instead of forcing connections, you start choosing peace, because healing changes your standards. Jesus says, "My child." Recovery means you stop settling for what once hurt you. At this stage, you may notice something surprising. New opportunities begin appearing, new ideas begin growing, new relationships begin entering your life, and doors that once seemed permanently closed begin opening naturally, because when God restores you, He often restores your vision too. Jesus is saying, "My child." As you heal, you begin recognizing opportunities you once could not see. You may also notice that your conversations are changing, your priorities are changing, your goals are changing, because your spirit is no longer focused on survival, it is preparing for growth, preparing for purpose, preparing for the next chapter. Jesus says, "My child." You are not merely recovering. You are becoming stronger than before. And perhaps the greatest sign of all, peace begins replacing fear, not perfect peace every moment, but deeper peace than you had before, a peace that reminds you, you survived, you learned, you grew, and you are still standing. Jesus is saying, "My child." The fact that you are still moving forward is proof that I have been carrying you. Soon, others will notice the difference too. They will see your confidence, your maturity, your wisdom, your resilience, not because your journey was easy, but because God used every challenge to strengthen you. Jesus says, "My child." Your restoration is becoming visible. Keep moving forward. If you believe God is restoring your heart, your peace, and your future, type Amen and continue trusting the process. Now, as restoration begins, you may notice something unexpected. Not everything is being added to your life. Some things are being removed, some relationships feel different, some doors are closing, some habits no longer fit who you are becoming, and part of you may wonder, why is God taking things away when I've been praying for restoration? But listen carefully, Jesus is saying, "My child." Before I fully restore you, I remove what keeps you connected to your old pain. Because restoration is not only about receiving, it is also about releasing what no longer serves your future, releasing what keeps you trapped in yesterday, releasing what prevents your growth. Jesus says, "My child." I cannot fill hands that refuse to let go. Some people were part of a season, not your destiny. Some habits brought temporary comfort, but long-term damage. Some environments felt familiar, but they were limiting your potential, and if those things remained, they would continue pulling you backward. Jesus is saying, "My child." What I remove is often what was blocking your next blessing. At first, letting go feels difficult, because familiarity feels safe. Even when it is unhealthy, you may miss certain people, certain routines, certain versions of your life, but growth often requires leaving behind what is comfortable. Jesus says, "My child." Comfort can keep you where purpose is trying to move you from. That is why some conversations no longer interest you, some relationships no longer feel the same, some goals no longer excite you, because your spirit is changing. Your priorities are changing, your vision is changing, you are becoming someone new. Jesus is saying, "My child." Restoration changes what you are willing to tolerate. At this stage, you may feel isolated at times, not because you are being punished, but because you are being prepared. Preparation often happens privately, growth often happens quietly, and transformation often happens before anyone else can see it. Jesus says, "My child." Do not mistake isolation for abandonment. I am working in your life. Soon, you will understand why certain doors had to close, why certain people had to leave, why certain plans had to fail, because what is coming next, will align with your healing. Your peace, your purpose, and the stronger version of yourself that God has been building. Jesus is saying, my child, trust what is leaving. I am making room for what is arriving. So stop trying to force old doors open, stop chasing what keeps moving away, stop holding on to what God is asking you to release, because your future requires space, and restoration requires surrender. Jesus says, my child, let go with faith. What I have prepared for you is greater than what you are leaving behind. If you trust God to remove what no longer belongs in your life, type Amen and continue walking forward in faith.